Are you creating some cookie cutter NPCs and you want to make them a little bit more exciting for your players? I'm going to tell you how to do it. Let's get to it.
Welcome to Dungeon Brew.
Welcome back everyone to Dungeon Brew. We are continuing this series on collaborative storytelling, and today we're going to be talking about non-player characters or NPCs. As the game master, I personally love the topic of NPCs because it's my opportunity to create a character within the world that has an active role in that storytelling. More than anything else that I think I can do is creating a good NPC that can engage with the characters in some way, shape, or form. Now, non-player characters can take many forms within the gaming world. They can be shopkeepers, quest givers, villains, allies, or just background characters within the story, but they make the world feel real, and they have a purpose behind them. In fact, there's three primary purposes that I see for any NPC within the gaming scenario. One, they should be maybe answering questions about the world. So they give answers to the lore and setting details in the history of what's going on. Two, they can reinforce the main story. So they may guide the players or push conflicts forward within the story. And then three, they can create some new story arcs for them. So it could be side quests, unexpected challenges, or even some hidden agencies that may be there. So when designing an NPC in any framework, you want to ask, what role do they serve within the story? It should be probably some component of these three things. And if it doesn't answer one of those three things, then the NPC probably just doesn't actually need to exist, or at least there needs to be some more depth to them. When it comes to creating NPCs, it's similar to when you're creating characters for a book where it's broken up into three different main categories. The first one is your primary NPCs. These are the ones that are essential to the story that is being told. These ones have their own goals and their own motivations that you've developed for them. They are moving along parallel to the players throughout the story. Sometimes they may travel with the players or with the party. They are oftentimes going to be major players in shaping the story events, and they're going to be either major allies or major villains. You can think of individuals like maybe Watson out of Sherlock Holmes, or maybe you have like a trusted mentor or a guide in the RPG itself that you have in the story, or maybe it's just the reoccurring villain that continues to pop up where their actions are evolving with the choices that the players are making. Then we have secondary NPCs, and these are ones that move along with the players throughout the story, and they can influence the story in major ways, but they also may just come and go a little bit. They give some key information, maybe give some side quests, they appear at some crucial moments throughout the game, but they aren't necessarily with the players all the time. So some great examples of this might be Princess Zelda in Ocarina of Time, where she's kind of appearing throughout the game to give some information to Link, or even Lydia in Skyrim, who is joining the player but can also be let go. She doesn't really have a deep personal arc, but she's there to help the player in accomplishing their quest. And then we have, as you may have guessed, the tertiary characters. These are ones that have very little personal stake in the story, but they populate the world and they make it feel alive. They are reacting to events and they are providing flavor. These are individuals like maybe the merchants who provide goods, but they don't really affect the larger story. Or it could be the villagers in a town that is under siege, where you see them suffering the consequences of the events. They're not driving those events, they're just suffering what's going on. And then you have like maybe the nameless guards or the prisoners that kind of help set the tone, but they don't have ongoing narratives for themselves. It's important to know that these tertiary characters really do matter. Their presence helps the characters feel as though they're being immersed in the world itself. So anytime that I'm creating a non-player character, I want to look at how they're going to impact the story, but I also want to identify what common role they're going to fulfill within the game. So they may be the villain in my game. They're the primary antagonist or another antagonist that challenges the players in some way. They could also be a quest giver, someone who's going to provide missions and goals. It could be a mentor who's guiding them but may have their own struggles. It could be a merchant or a trader who's supplying resources and gear. It may be a victim or some sort of character in the game that's caught up in the events and is creating some emotional stakes for the players. Or it could be a false hero, which is an NPC that's trying to take credit for the player's work or has their own hidden motives. By assigning these clear roles for each one of my NPCs, it helps me define how they're going to fit within the larger picture and if they're worth building at all. Okay, so now that we have that out of the way, we can talk about how to build memorable non-player characters. Now, John wrote 3 extensive posts on how to build personalities for your NPCs or even your characters in a game on our Patreon underneath GM Resources. So some of this is going to mirror the information that you're going to find on there. First off, I need to kind of call out the elephant in the room and just say that not all non-player characters need a detailed backstory, but every character should feel unique and believable when your players interact with them in your fantasy world that you're playing within. So the first thing that I would tell you to do is make sure that you give them distinct characteristics. One of the ways that you can do this is in their physical traits. Do they have unique features like a scar or a missing hand or colorful tattoos? You can also do this in just mannerisms that the NPC might have. Do they fidget a little bit, or do they speak really slowly? Do they have a unique laugh, or even laugh at their own jokes, which are terrible jokes that they tell repeatedly throughout the interaction with the player? And what do you do with their speech patterns? Do they have an accent? Do they use specific phrases when they engage with the characters? That's just a really easy way to make them distinct from other characters that they might interact with within the world that has them stand out in some way. The next thing that you want to do is define what their motivation is. I am huge on identifying the motivation behind my non-player character. What do they want? Is it to survive? Is it power? Is it money? Is it justice? What is it that they stand for? Once you've answered that, then the second question you should ask yourself is, what are they willing to do to get it? Will they lie? Will they fight? Will they manipulate? What will they do in order to achieve their goal? And then next, how will their goals intersect with the players? Are they willing to help the players in some way? Does the players' goals align with their own? Or are they going to hinder the players because the players' goals objectively prevent them from obtaining what it is that they want? Are they willing to deceive the players? So ask yourself, what will this NPC do in terms of their engagement with the player? What do they gain from it? What will they lose from it? The third thing that you have to do is making sure that their actions match their personality. So it's bringing it all together, and honestly, this might be one of the most difficult things for game masters to do. It's having the NPC standing in front of the players express themselves in a way that actually matches either that motivation or whatever it is that they're trying to hide, so their personality fills in the gap. So maybe you have a selfish merchant who is trying to swindle the players in some way. What type of oil snakesman type of language does he utilize to show that he's a swindling merchant that is selfish, that is trying to get more money or is trying to screw over the players? What do you see in his actions in terms of him being fidgety in some way in the way that he talks to them? Or maybe you have a fearful informant. They might stammer a little bit when they're trying to talk and hesitating in trying to get their words out. Or maybe they're just very demandful and saying, you need to protect me because if you don't, they're going to hurt me. You have to have that expression come across in a way that the players immediately understand there's something else going on in terms of the mannerisms that they're seeing. You might also have a vengeful noble who is trying to manipulate the players and trying to get revenge. So they're very detailed in the type of language that they use and what it is that they're trying to express to divert the players. And they may pause in odd areas of their statements in order to think about what it is they want to say before they say it, which is very clear that there might be some reading between the lines that needs to take place. In other words, just make sure that whatever actions you attribute to them match their personality and their motivations. The final tip I would give you in creating a memorable character is to know what their life looks like outside of the players. You don't have to do this for every NPC, but I would recommend doing it for your primary and your secondaries. Know if they're married, do they have children, do they have rivals, what personal quests are they pursuing, and what steps have they taken in pursuance of that quest. What were they doing before the players met them? I like to have those answers so when the players start asking them questions, it doesn't feel like I'm grasping at straws. I have a genuine idea of what's going on with this NPC. I also want to make sure that I have a ready, genuine response for that NPC for whatever's going on in the world, whether it be war or famine or a revolution. How is that NPC responding to that, and how does it align with their motivations? So it seems, again, just very genuine in that response to them. I have the most fun with this when I can align those motivations or those responses with something that is meaningful to my player characters and their backstories. So it kind of pulls at those drawstrings, at the heartstrings, to get them kind of on board of either allying with the NPC or wanting to reject them because the value system is so misaligned. So contrary to popular belief, NPCs are not just created to dump exposition and give information to the player characters as they're moving throughout the world. They should be not only a means for you to engage in meaningful collaborative storytelling with the players by being an active part in that storytelling through the NPCs, but they can also serve a variety of different roles for those players. You should be creating every NPC with the concept of how is this individual going to engage with the player in a meaningful way? How are the players going to react to this NPC? What decisions can they make regarding this NPC? And can this NPC become a long-term ally or even an enemy? Every NPC, I think, creates an opportunity for really good engagement and maybe even some role play with the player characters, but they can also be an active part of any type of decision making that's taking place with the players, and that leads to deeper immersion. All right, so I want to just end with this. The NPCs are going to shape how your players experience the world, and it's going to clue them into what type of world they are really experiencing. To create great NPCs, you want to give them purpose. They should be able to answer questions or drive the story or create some arcs for your players for the quest that they're going to go on. You want to make them memorable, so give them some unique quirks and motivations and personalities that kind of stand out. I know in our group there are still some NPCs that our players will call back to and be like, oh, do you remember old Joe the barkeep that we had in session 3 15 years ago? That guy was a real riot. And then of course keep them consistent. Actions should match their goals and their personalities, so make sure that they are consistent. I hope that you guys have found this helpful. Comment below on your favorite NPCs and some TTRPGs that you played. If you enjoyed this, of course, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell, and go check out our Patreon, where we are regularly creating new resources for game masters like you. Talk to you next time.
Dungeon Brew.